Hello, everyone. My name is Serena Houghton, Communication Specialist at the Greater Sum. I'm here with Katie Neese from Child Life Disaster Relief. Since 2016, just like us, their mission has been to develop a coordinated and global network to ensure that children in disasters and crises have tools and support they need to promote the positive coping and resilience. Today, Child Life Disaster Relief has a database of over 1,700 child life specialists and students from around the world who have various levels of involvement within the organization. Nice. And welcome, Katie.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Um, it's been 4 years since Child Life Disaster Relief was part of our 2020 cohort. And
Yep.
wow, that's been 4 years already. Um,
Yeah, I know.
New since then, any cool growth stories?
Yeah, 2020. Do I need to say more? 2020, right?
Yeah.
Everyone had to pivot, and that's when we were part of Greater Sum. And our pivot, just like a lot of nonprofits, had to be groundbreaking and creative thinking. And luckily for us, it is a strong suit of ours. And so we were able to really lean in on our ability to think outside the box and pivot quickly. And with the Greater Sums subject matter experts, we had some, built-in advisors to really guide us and help us as we tried to do that quickly. So we have since 2020 and starting 2020, we started to really evaluate what is the strong suits, the strengths that we have, and one of those being our agility. But another one of those really being our ability to, or just not even ability, just the natural piece of our mission is built around individuals that specialize, that are professionals in working with children in the midst of trauma. And unlike a lot of our sister and brother organizations that we collaborate with and work really well with in this field of disaster relief, and specifically focusing on children, we are unique in that way where we rely on professionals and experts in working with children. So we have been leaning into more of that. How can we really maximize on the minds and the talent and the expertise that we have within our organization? And through that, we have developed a really exciting curriculum that we have turned into a fee-for-service model. Now, that can also be and is used in disaster response too, depending on the assessed need of the response. And of course, that is not fee-for-service when we're responding in disasters, but pre-disasters or for police and fire. This is a curriculum that's focused on how do you tangibly, practically meet the psychosocial and coping needs of kids in the midst of serious disasters and crises, and that includes man-made as well. We have plans for at least one fire department coming up here to do we're going to be doing the training for them, as well as a group of physicians at a well-known hospital, physicians that focus on disaster response and really looking to us for some guidance on how to not overlook and rather effectively attend to the coping needs of kids while they're doing their medical jobs. So with all of that, leaning into that expertise that we have, we've also had more opportunities to be subject matter experts for others. And that's been a great experience to be professional consultants for some of our sister and brother organizations that are looking to make sure that the way they're rolling out their work as well is evidence-based and quality in terms of really meeting what the kids need.
Wow. So now, and did I get that number right? Your database is about 1,700 child life specialists.
It has grown since then. We have not done a good job of tracking that very well. So by that I mean it's way bigger than that now. But what we're trying to do now, we just brought on a new executive director, and what she's going to be honing in on, as well as fundraising, is really looking at those numbers and figuring out who's who and what do we actually have. So that is one piece that we're fine tuning.
That, and I think that's always going to be an ongoing fine tuning, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, part of
Mm-hmm.
part of a growth or capacity building, right, is that sometimes there's just so much going on that
Mm-hmm.
that all the little metrics and measurements and things kind of get lost in that because it's still being a somewhat of an early stage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Organization.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's something that like you're still wearing many hats, right? So
Mm-hmm.
definitely
Yeah.
more help, a little more time to sit and analyze and kind of count that would definitely help. I know that you're a remote organization, correct? Like, do you operate kind
Mm-hmm.
of all over? Okay. So, and I think you
We
had
do,
kind of
yeah.
just touched on COVID just a bit there because you guys were part of our cohort on the very first year that COVID
Yep.
became a thing. So, um, do you do you know how COVID had affected operations during the rest of that year, maybe going into 2021, because the COVID really didn't end, right? It hasn't ended, but
Mm-hmm.
it was the country was still kind of shut down and things were harder to get. Do you have any like stories or maybe some of the challenges that you faced during that period of time? It seemed like it was forever.
I know, I know. Yeah, we it's really great. Just an amazing, um what we thought, I think what we all thought was going to be a temporary fix ended up becoming a huge benefit for us in some ways. And so, just to explain, a lot of our responders we rely on them for in-person responses in disasters. And so in the early stages of COVID, we actually had a team ready to go, our third team to Puerto Rico after the earthquakes that happened in late 2019. And this was going to be our third team that we were sending out. I think they were going to leave March 6th. Maybe it was a little bit after that. I can't remember exactly, but I was real excited about that team. I was excited about the opportunity. They were going to work with a group of psychologists who were going to be working with the adults, and our team was going to be working with the kids. Um, and Everything got shut down, had to cancel that deployment, and it was a huge disappointment. And in that, we scrambled, we pivoted, we figured out, well, what can we do that is that still meets the needs? Could we do virtual? And of course, we like cringed at that idea. How do you really do this level of work with a virtual interaction? It's so reliant on the relationship and trust with kids that it was hard to imagine. And we ended up rolling out a virtual response. We focused on the children of healthcare workers. And we did a coping through connections group. So it was several groups, different ages. We also had groups for parents as well. And we rolled that out. I think we had like 10 groups a week. We had 40 some different of our responders that now didn't have to travel. They were doing it virtually, working together, coordinating and running these teams. And we even had groups for children with special needs, which was one of our actually most successful groups, was that one. But our responders coordinated those groups and led opportunities for kids to work through all the facets of what they were experiencing, the fears, all the emotions, all the questions, the uncertainty, as well as the lack of normal connections. And we were shocked at how effective it actually was. And so we realized, okay, well, children are a different generation. They're more used to the electronics than we are. So turns out electronic interaction is weirder for us as adults, and it's not as weird for kids. So realizing that, we ended up doing a virtual response for a couple other disasters as well, including Ukraine. Early in the invasion in Ukraine, we did a response at an orphanage in Ukraine, and it was a government run orphanage. and they had, I think they had about 30 some children, and half of them were orphaned from, they were from Kiev and orphaned from the war, and the other half were orphaned from other situations.
Wow.
And we did our coping through connection groups with the orphanage, and we did 2 trainings with the orphanage staff and teachers, and it was not to toot our own horns, but it was amazing. We were shocked with how effective it was, and the teachers were very complimentary. It was just really um, gratifying to see how when you pivot quickly in the middle of a pandemic, you end up finding that there are other ways to deliver services that can be just as effective. And maybe we couldn't have gotten to Ukraine at that moment to do that response, but yet here we were able to do it.
Wow, that's really amazing and really refreshing to hear because I also had that bias that I think these programs should be, or at least it's just me, I guess. That in-person touch, you can't replace that, And so
Mhm,
your worries were exactly my worries as you were, explaining this, what about that trust, And so
mhm.
I'm just so glad to hear that everything just sort of kind of fell into place and allowed you all to kind of expand your reach without having to physically be there, which is sort of the most wonderful thing is you can reach so many more people and expansion is just limitless, right? Um,
Yeah,
and
exactly. And our ideal, of course, is in person.
oh,
100,
okay.
100% in person is our ideal response. But recognizing both with our curriculum of our training and now our curriculum with our virtual response that we can expand our reach, like you said, that we can have even more impact with some other methods of delivering on our mission that can be quite, if not just as impactful. But yeah, there for us, there's nothing that really beats that in-person response. So that's still our number one.
I was gonna say, yeah, I felt that as well, in person. But I think that there's also just so much more value to have collaborations with a child life specialist in one place, totally different place, but
Mhm,
has the right training and specialty to deal with a specific issue, right? Or has the language skill
mhm,
set to deal with maybe someone from Ukraine, like you were saying, right? So that's also kind of the benefit, right? That you learn along the way. Like, hey, I can
mhm.
pull this and put this together. So
Yep. Yeah,
on that
exactly.
subject, I talked to Ozzy and did an interview with him recently, from Project Camp. And
Mhm,
he had mentioned you guys, that you all collaborate because you work in a similar space. And
mhm.
I thought that was actually pretty cool because it's both of our alum kind of working together. So anyway,
Yeah.
but
It is really cool. Yeah, they're
yeah,
great
right.
organization. They're making waves. They're doing great things, and it's been exciting to see what they're doing and collaborate together and partner together. And yeah, we have different niches, and so we can complement each other and support each other. It's been great.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. And recently he was in Maui.
Hmm.
They were doing a camp in Maui and they were mentioning that, they were helping the kids, after the wildfires there. And I think they had mentioned that you all had had some involvement as well.
Hmm. Yeah, we did a training early on, and Ozzy had made some connections for us that people were asking them for training. He kind of pointed them in our direction. We were able to jump in and do that. The timing ended up not coinciding with some of the needs, and so we are looking at other ways we can also jump in and really meet some of the training needs because there's a lot out there. But it was an amazing first start at getting in and giving some expert information to the people that were seeking it.
Wonderful. I'm glad to hear that.
Hmm.
Um, and okay, so as a last question here,
Yep.
what do you find is your call to action these days for child life disaster relief? Like, what do you find yourself needing the most these days?
Um, I would say Um, Funding has been a hard thing for us and a lot with and I am encouraged, in a sad way, to hear that for a lot of nonprofits that's been the same with the pandemic. A lot of our funders before did some restructuring of their own funding priorities, and some were able to keep, and some they were going a different direction, wanted to kind of narrow their focus a little bit more. And so our new executive director that we brought on is taking the charge. She's incredible in the area of nonprofit fundraising. And so she is digging in and making some really great headway and some connections. But I would say that's our biggest need, um, is the funding to fuel the mission that we are continuing to steamroll on. One thing I absolutely love about our board of directors, we have 13 on our board of directors, excellent, very professional group of various mindsets and backgrounds. And they are very much, when we have deployment opportunities, which we have a couple that we're working on right now, um, we don't want money to be anything that slows us down. We would rather go after it hard and hope and pray that things come together. And you know what? It's worked out for us so far. But as we continue to mature as an organization, we would love to have a little bit more stability with that, and not any sort of hesitation when it comes to being able to jump in and meet the needs. So that is a piece that we are continuing to really lean hard in and figure out, how do we create sustainable avenues for funding sources. And part of that is our fee for service model, some of the trainings for different organizations, that we could do a model that's like a pay it forward, pay for someone else to have a training kind of fee for service idea. And I think that the more we get that solidly underway, that's going to be an avenue for really fueling our disaster missions as well.
I think you all are on the right track. I think you all are doing all the right things and just keep tweaking, and the
Yep.
fee for service, I think it could be very key to it, and maybe some partnerships along the way. I
Mhm.
think it definitely, I see a great future for child life disaster relief. Katie Niece, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
joining us today. We are honored to have you as part of our alum, and I look forward to talking with you again in the next 4 or 5 years.
Well, thanks. We've been really grateful to have Greater Sum, and didn't expect the continued support from Greater Sum. The opportunities to continue to learn and lean in on experts has been a surprising benefit, and we are thrilled. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Katie.
Thanks.